Yeah, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Elephants in the Room podcast. We are your awesome twosome. As always, I'm Ronyangeri, the chief thinker.
Radhika Bachu, the super striker.
Well in.
Yes.
And today we're going to have a deep chat about a new term that Radhika will
talk about,
explore and delve into.
This episode will talk about black tax.
All right.
What does that mean for the everyday Kenyan, Africans? Is it just should it really be called black tax? Is it a problem amongst just Africans, or does it happen in the Indian community? Does it happen in the English community? God knows. We'll figure it out.
Tons of questions.
Lots of questions. Yeah, so that's really timely. So tell me, Ro, why are you a victim? What happened?
So this is the story, okay? So left Nairobi, like, you know what? I've left on August 7th. I'm going to cast my vote August 9th. I've chilled with my people. I've done my stuff. And yeah, I'm just waiting on results to come. Okay. But then what goes round that the son of Nairobi is in the village, you know?
Yeah.
And from 6 a.m., I was getting delegations, you know? Folks were coming, knocking on the door, just saying hello. Yeah, I was just passing by. I was 40 kilometers away. I had you here, so I said to pass by.
Wow.
You know? And the long and short of it, out of all this, I forked out a lot of money for various undertakings some I had no clue about, you know?
So why did you fork out your money?
I mean, all these guys, my relatives, okay?
You felt emotionally obliged.
Yeah. And you know, someone tells me, oh, been friends with your mom for ages as well. We used to do this together back in the 80s.
Did you call your mom to check?
No. I mean, the person is right in front of me. I'm not going to go to the phone and like, hey, mom, do you know this person? You know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think I've financed a couple of houses, right? I've paid school fees for a number of kids, and healthcare bills as well.
You thought you would leave Nairobi, go de-stress,
yes,
have a cheap weekend away because Nairobi's become expensive.
Right.
But instead, going to Shags was way more expensive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Jesus, yeah.
It's like I took a trip, I don't know, to Paris or somewhere. I'm just looking at how much I actually ended up paying.
Yeah.
And I'm back. I'm like, ugh. So I need to understand this. What's going on here, Ads?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we know this is known as black tax, right? Not only you suffer from it, but every Kenyan, whoever has left the village and been successful. So that's not just village meaning coming to Nairobi, even going to the States, the UK, anywhere abroad. It is almost the obligation. There's an obligation you feel. And that's why I was asking you, like, why? Why did you do it?
Yes.
It's because you're emotionally designed as a human to want to help people.
Yes.
And when you start hearing stories that play on the strings of your heart, you will very likely give money away.
Yeah, you mentioned kids. I'm done. Like, okay, what is it? Let's
Especially
solve
school. For me, it's actually school fees. Like if someone's like, please, I can't meet their education.
Yeah.
I will say, okay, I don't have this money, but I'm going to go into my savings and give it to you.
Okay.
Because educating someone is the best skill you can give them.
All right.
So it's about playing on emotional strings.
Right.
And you know what? As humans, we want to give. But really, how do we manage black tax? You digged into your savings, and should anything happen to you in the next 3 to 6 months, you don't want to be the guy asking for black tax.
Yeah, I don't want to call you Rads, hey.
Yeah, and that can happen.
Send me some money, Rads.
And you know, this thing happens so often that people forget how to manage their own money, and they're just, you know, giving money away, and then say something happens, they're like, oh no, I have no money. So
you've mentioned something interesting, black tax. So I've just decided to use the power of Google.
Yes.
So I'm on Wikipedia.
Yep.
Can I read out this definition?
Yeah, please do.
This takes me back to school. I've not read out something aloud in a very long time. Black tax is a term that originated in South Africa for money that black or other person of color, as you mentioned, professionals provide to their family every month outside their own living expenses, usually out of obligation.
Interesting.
All right, that was keyword you mentioned.
Yeah.
It is caused by continued economic imbalance that can be traced back to apartheid. Okay, this is for the South African case, but we have all our own causes in different countries. It can be described as Ubuntu, but an incapacitating twist for black professionals. All right, that's a definition.
But also you'll find that a lot of firstborn children feel this burden to support their families back home.
All right.
And the reality is that, you know, our parents work really hard. They give us the education, and then you go on and you join these incredible jobs.
Yes.
But as a firstborn or a child that comes from very little money, they're naturally obliged to support the family member back home.
Okay.
And sometimes it's unfair because the oldest one didn't choose to be born first.
Okay.
But they have a lot of pressures of making sure their parents are okay.
Yes.
In our Indian culture, actually, it's very common. The eldest son is meant to live with the parents. And they do a lot of the heavy lifting, not financially, but just more relationshiply wise. So it kind of spreads over different cultures in different ways. But traditionally, in the context of black tax, it is the firstborn that bears a lot of the pressure of actually making sure to provide for their parents in retirement.
All right. So the first one turns out to be like a retirement plan.
Literally, I was just going to say that. So imagine if you helped your parents understand at a young age, or if they were taught financial planning when they were working. They wouldn't be a burden because they would have money that they saved up for their retirement, which allows you not to pay black tax, and you can make better financial decisions preparing for your family in your retirement.
Correct.
So it's almost like a vicious cycle. So black tax, yay, it's great. You know, you're helping your family members, but there are other ways you can help your family members, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later on. Black
tax, the way I hear it from you, is very pervasive. Many people are encountering this. Whether they're vocalizing like myself or they're suffering in silence. I think there are many stories here that can actually be shared. So we're going to do something very interesting today, Rats.
Today we're going to bring in some individuals to really talk about other examples of black tax. I think it's really important to hear and share, and then we can figure out how we can work towards managing it.
What they're actually doing about either resolving it or handling it better.
Or are they just stuck? Could be.
Stuck, I don't think it's possible. All right.
Alrighty.
So without much further ado, we'll introduce our first guest ever to the podcast.
Welcome.
Our first guest ever on the podcast.
Yay.
You have the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Mia Mohoro. That's what I'll say about myself today.
You're just Mia Mohoro, a Kenyan.
Today I'm a Kenyan talking about black tax.
Thank you for hopping onto the podcast this morning. We are discussing about black tax, all right? That's a terminology that Radhika brought up this morning. I've also been just clued in about it. But I've realized it's something that has been part of our lives for quite long, right? So tell me, what is your experience with black tax? What was the scenario? If you can just give us a background around this.
Yeah. All right. I think from, say, 19.
Okay.
When I first got my first job.
2 years ago.
Well, yeah, let's call it 2. Call it 2.
Yeah.
But you start to notice relatives around you will call you for small things.
All right.
It starts with, you're my daughter. I raised you. I was there when you were taken to school and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it actually works on your heart, In the beginning, you're strong. You're like, I know you, but it's not that deep.
Right.
But as years progress and, they can see that you're also, like, your life is changing. You come from the village. One time you come with a small car.
Yes.
After 4 years, you come back, you have a bigger car.
Right.
So the expectations keep rising.
Okay.
And I'd say for me, I think I've seen the height of black tax during the COVID period.
Right.
Because it moved from, hi, could you send me 500 bob?
Okay.
Because we don't have milk.
Right.
To, I don't have an income, it's during the pandemic. Can I ask you to pay my rent? And they will come in with, it's not a lot, I just need you to give me 5,000 bob.
Okay.
But then the 5,000 doesn't stop leaving your pocket. It's now post the pandemic, and now I'd say you're stuck because you don't know how to tell the person, okay, look, this is my end.
Yes.
I don't want to do this anymore. So, yeah.
Now, if we could go back to, I'm quite keen to understand. So there's a first interaction of, yes, there's a challenge in COVID. Can you help me with this? Then it translates to a bigger amount, right? 10x, like you mentioned, it's 500, it's gone to 5,000 bob. How is the methodology of asking for this? Are they still saying, can I, or Tuma pesa wewe. All right? Is it now like a demand or
now
how is it being delivered?
It's actually now an expectation. You actually start to notice at the end of the month, they'll almost send you a question mark like, wait, you didn't send? What am I going to do? What am I going to tell the landlord?
Yes.
So you get to the point where you actually just don't pick up calls anymore. And I think it is a bad way to handle it. I wish I could just, because they work at your heart.
Yes.
I wish I could just tell them no.
But you're unable to say no.
I'm unable to say no. So now I ignore phone calls.
Now, they came to you, so there's this entire thing where family, I raised your kid, I helped you say your first words, Did you ever reach out, say, to your mom and say, listen, there's this situation that's happening with person XYZ, please help, How do
I actually did. I did. And I reached out to my grandmother, and for some reason, it seems that the notion in Shags is that the better you're a good kid because you take care of your family. It's like almost like the hallmark of like, you're such a wonderful grandchild, we're so proud of you. No, you must, this is how, you must take care of your elders because this is how it's done. It seems like it's almost your obligation, and like you guys were talking about earlier, you learn that you're actually their retirement plan. They're like, such and Nani's son is in the US, even built them a house.
Okay.
So this small 5,000, it's not like, come on, you can afford it.
Start comparing now. Look what he did.
Exactly.
In fact, you can up this.
You
can up this amount. Yes. So what was the impact of this? So you now have a new expense line, which is black tax. So here you are in a situation. Let's just assume that your income has reduced, but you have new expense lines. How did you deal with this particular situation?
You know what? It's actually true. My salary went down 25% during the pandemic.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now you have an introduced 5,000 bob.
Yeah.
That seems to be almost like your moral obligation. So you have to learn where to personally cut from your life. You reduce your shopping list in such a way that it accommodates this other person, and you know what, in the beginning it's okay. Your heart is, I'm doing well, I'm doing a good thing there. I would not want to see them sleeping in the street with their kid.
Yeah.
But after a while, it actually becomes a very resentful relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
You start to feel like this person is just like a burden. They're such a burden.
So you see a call or a text, you just don't even want to.
Oh my God! You ignore the call.
Yeah.
They'll call you again. You ignore it. By the time they're calling the fifth time, now you're picking up with that. Listen, I've sent. Okay, I've sent.
Now you're annoyed.
Okay, I've sent.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually so you are sort of angry. It's creeping into mental health. It
really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've gotten to the point where you want to tell them, I can't do this anymore.
Yes.
But then, because you know them and you know their state, then you actually feel like, if I say no, am I trying to say I want you to sleep in the street?
Okay. Yes. So emotional strings here.
You know what? I think this one is almost like a full therapy session. This should be a therapy session for a lot of people who need to learn to say and also learn to set boundaries with their relatives and say, this is where I'm drawing the line.
Financial therapy. Yes.
Financial therapy. Yeah.
So how's the situation now? How is it?
Now we're 2 months in to not doing it. I still feel a lot of guilt. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm learning to I'm telling myself I did what I could.
Yes. Yeah.
I did what I could. Unfortunately, it's on somebody else now. I know this person hasn't gotten a job, and unfortunately the other person is my sister, so.
Oh, it's rotated within the family.
Unfortunately, it has.
So you're 2 months in, said, okay, enough, I can do this.
Yeah.
And the burden has shifted to your sister. All right. I'm curious about two things. One, what's your sister's take on this? Because I'm sure you two are discussing, you are ranting, like, this thing is happening.
Yeah.
Does she feel like you kicked the ball to her and she's also looking at you funny, or?
She probably is.
Yes.
So I gave this person a 6-month ultimatum. I said, you know what, in the next 6 months, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
6 months end, and they're like, okay, I know you said 6 months, but I still don't have.
Yes.
And so my sister, in her kindness, said, you know what, because I know they're still struggling, I'm going to do 3 more months for them.
Okay.
So I am very cautiously reminding her,
yes,
next month is a hard stop.
Yes.
Because you'll be doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, take it from me. Take it from your sister.
Learn from me.
Yes.
Hard stop next month. Don't do it anymore.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So you have the individual saying rent.
Yeah.
This is what I need you to pay. Was there an expansion of needs? Like, starts with rent, suddenly changes to, I don't know, medical bills, is the cow needs to be inoculated.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So in the beginning was, okay, there's rent, but also, we have to eat a little bit, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Just a little bit more to eat.
Yes.
But I learned, that one I was able to say, you know what, I can only give this much.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to be giving you your food every month, I'm going to do this part, and I'm going to do it for the next 6 months. And then 6 months, the pandemic is not over, still don't have a job, so another 6 months.
It's extended again.
Yeah. So it's not extended in terms of like other expense lines, but it's extended in time.
Yeah.
Like, it really could have been.
You thought this thing was time bound, but it's actually not.
It's been, 2 years now.
Okay. And what was there any feedback from the individual when they realized that you're not gonna do this anymore?
It's a lot of guilt trip.
Is it via calls or is it via proxy? Like, now it's your grandma, so it's your mom. Yeah?
You know how it goes.
How is the guilt tripping? Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
It goes from them to the older ones, and my grandma is like, oh, I heard that. But now, to be honest, I think my grandmother is a very independent woman, and she does not depend on anyone for anything.
Right.
To the point where she said, you know what? Let them be outside, if that's what it takes for them to get a job.
So your grandma essentially went to shock therapy.
She did.
We cannot extend this for too long.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's put the person in a situation where they have to rise up and try to solve this situation that they're in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Mia.
You're welcome.
I think what you've actually done here is created a new idea, giving birth to something called financial therapy, perhaps something that we can delve into further.
I agree, and also, like, for a lot of people, I know people don't speak about how much black tax impacts them.
Yes.
And I'll say it impacts your mental health more than your pocket, because I'm okay with giving you that amount.
Yeah.
I'm just not okay with it being extended for so long that our relationship starts to suffer.
Yes.
And it's suffering, and we're family, so it's bothering me. So now we're going to meet at a family meeting and I don't talk to you. Oh my, it gets complicated.
Exactly. Yeah. So financial goes to emotional, goes to social.
Exactly. So I think that's it affects more your emotion than it does your pocket.
We heard you loud and clear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mia.
You're welcome.
Thank you for opening up, and do have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. Cheers. As your first guest.
So you guys have just heard from Mia. I mean, that story was so raw, really came from within her. And she touched upon some really interesting points about how just black tax doesn't necessarily affect your financial pocket, but actually your mental health and your relationship with your family members. But now we'd like to take one other example from David to really learn more about his experiences with black tax. So David, tell me, what's been your experience with black tax that you can remember, the one key one?
I'd say like my whole life is all about black tax, basically. Being the firstborn in my family, in a broken family, and brought up by grandparents.
Okay.
Mostly it started with my siblings.
Interesting.
So
not your parents, but your siblings.
Not my parents. And then it gets to the next level of I am done with school, I am done with being under parents who are now grandparents, and I've started working, and I have to support the people who have brought me up, who are my grandparents. Yeah. And then we get to the point that my parents are now getting elderly, and now I have to support both my parents and my grandparents and my siblings and my family.
So tell me, how many people are you supporting in total?
We're talking about my dad, mom. We're talking about 4 of my 3 siblings.
Yeah,
I have
7.
Yeah, those are 7.
Yeah.
I have my own family,
of
which
course.
is wife and kids. I have my grandparents, and the auntie who received me in Nairobi.
Yes.
She passed on, so her kids
Wow.
are my responsibility too.
Wow. So basically you're earning all this money. You're going to work every single day, 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 8. You're tired, but just to support other people.
It starts out like there's no one else. It's my responsibility. I'm happy to help because I'm the first one. There's no one else to do what I am able to do because they did their best for me to get where I am. Over time, it becoming a burden. It bears you down because you forget about yourself.
Exactly.
It wears you down because you cannot account. Most of the time, actually, doing budgets is a burden on its own for anything that you get into your pocket. Like I won't do any budget. You just tick off what I am able to do this month, and I push the rest to the next month or to the next paycheck or to the next side hustle that gives me money. Because doing the budget alone, you'll find I once did it and I was living way over my means and it was not reflecting on my own person.
Yeah.
It was like giving other people benefit.
And do you feel that this black tax sometimes leads you to looking for debt and borrowing from other people? Has that already started?
Most of the people that I have met who have the same experience as me or who I have shared with, we are always in debt. Yeah. Because some things are inevitable. Like someone gets sick, you have no money.
Yeah.
They have sold most of the land. Like at home, we are just remaining with the little that
they live on.
And so there is nothing more to sell. So we have to get into debt to take care of necessary stuff, and they don't stop coming.
Yes.
Someone is sick here, someone got an accident there, someone is going to school.
Yeah.
So debt is part of life, yeah.
Interesting. And you mentioned something earlier. You said because you're the firstborn, you feel that the burden falls on you. Do you feel now that some of your siblings have, graduated, do you feel that they feel the obligation to also help out, or do they very much still come to you because you're the firstborn?
Only one of them has graduated.
Okay.
Right now. The rest are not doing so well, but we have tried to make their lives stable. The one who has graduated is very responsible.
Okay.
He helps out when he can, but he has not. I'm still.
You're still the head of the house.
The head of the house. So, in as much as he doesn't have a lot of money, but he helps out when he can. Yeah, and I feel I've tried cushioning him
from the black tax.
From the black tax because he's young. He has not even started a family. He's graduated, but he has not gotten the job of his dreams. So he's just doing, hustling here and there. Yeah. He is very good with what he does, but I've tried telling him, try as much as possible to make sure that your money goes into you, not to everyone else, because
because you forget about yourself when you've got black tax. No, and I think and I was just going to ask you, you're probably trying to protect your sibling from the black tax because you're not happy where you are with it. And do you think it takes a toll on your mental health?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stressful. It makes you irritable sometimes. It takes a toll on your relationship with people. Sometimes get to a point where you cannot be at peace with everyone. Changes your personality to some extent.
Yeah, and that's deep. And
stress, depression is not very far away from your life.
Yeah. And I think there are some certain things that Ndovu's trying to put in place to help people deal with black tax. One of the key things that drives you to do a lot of charity work and forget that charity begins at home is because you feel this obligation and this emotional burden of wanting to help your family members. And this is so common across the African culture. I think it seeps into some Indian cultures as well. We have this thing where, the firstborn, like yourself, must look after the parents. And if only we had the education to pay for NHIF, like you mentioned, there's people falling ill. It's 500 shillings a month, which I know for some people is a lot of money, but it saves you so much more money when you're actually ill. And it's those things that we're working on today. And so tell me, David, do you feel that the rest of your family is also evolving out of it, becoming more responsible, or do you foresee this to be a long-term challenge for yourself?
Personally, I would say that for me, it's not ending because parents are not growing any younger. About the siblings, what I have been trying to do is to make them empowered, for them to realize the power of education, which is what took me to where I am, to a position of being able to help, making sure that once they start earning, it is their money and they will be able to benefit from it.
Okay.
As far as parents are concerned, for me, I'm stuck with them. We have no choice because they are growing old. We are still their children, and it's in the culture, and we already started. The siblings,
we can empower them. Yeah. And I think you're making, first of all, the right steps, by the way. Some of the teachings that we find go more about, don't give them money, but teach them a new skill set. Sit down with them to create a business plan. So you ask them, what are you passionate about? And they'll say, I am very good. So if it's a younger sibling, they'll be like, I'm really good with the internet. Okay, what business can you start on the internet? And then using what you've learnt and spending your time rather than money, you create a business plan to empower them to actually become financially independent. And I think this is, if you continue listening to the podcast, you'll definitely get more tips on how do we do other things other than give them money to make sure they become their own independent flower, and eventually help you support your parents, because ultimately they're also their parents.
True.
Yeah. So David, this is part of our financial therapy. So do you roughly know how much you've spent to date on black tax? Just a rough figure.
In total?
Yes.
Since I started out? Oh my goodness. Several million.
Okay. So let's say 5 million plus.
Well, almost 5 million.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's,
It is.
that 5 million could be life-changing. And let's forget about this black tax and your responsibilities and obligations. What would you do with this amount of money if you had the opportunity to?
Oh my goodness. I would not be employed anymore. I would start I would reinvigorate my business. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, yeah. No, definitely.
And I thought about it that way.
Yeah. A lot of this is a lot of burden, and it has an impact on your mental health. How do you, when there's moments of, you said you were irritable sometimes, how do you learn to cope with it? Do you have any mechanisms that you...
I heard as part of depression at some point. It was bad.
Yes.
I've never spoken about it to anyone, but let me say it became too much at some point, all the pressure and everything, and I lost my mind.
Yeah.
And without going into details, I lost 2 weeks of my life. I didn't know what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to hear.
And I got into the hospital and was there for I think a month or so, and I got counseling, after that.
Okay.
And it's 3-4 years now.
Okay.
Part of that, I thank my therapist, because we got to the point that I knew that I should be able to teach myself to say no to things which are not directly related to me, or some things that I did not deem as important as I should be able to fund them.
Yeah, of course.
And it's been possible. I've grown now. You slowly gotten used to saying no to some things, limiting the amount of help that I can. That is why right now I am in a good mental state to be able to tell my brother,
yes,
it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
So in case anyone comes to you, refer to me first. Yeah.
So actually, you've touched on so first of all, congratulations. The fact that you've brought yourself out of the dark place is a step in the right direction. And I think keep at it. These things in life, I always say, we'll deal with it another day, but don't let it affect your mental health. And it's easier said than done, but I think you're doing a great job. One of the key things that we find is that black tax isn't going to go away, but how do we manage it, right? So what can we do to make sure that it doesn't creep onto our personal life where we feel these moments of stress and, hardship? And the way I see that is ultimately our emotions take the better of us. So we don't want to feel guilty. We don't want that feeling of guilt. So the best way to manage it is say, okay, if I earn 100,000 shillings every single month, I'm willing to create a black tax fund where I put 5% of that in there. So that's 5,000 shillings. So during that month, I know, okay, my mama needs 2,000 shillings. My mama and baba need 2,000 shillings. I have 3,000 shillings for everybody else. And that way, they'll come, somebody will say, I want 1,000, 200, 800. But as soon as you hit the 5,000 shilling limit, you can now comfortably say, without feeling guilty, for this month, guys, I'm done. I cannot give you any more money. And the reason you have to create this fund is so that A, you can conquer the feeling of guilt, but also you're now saving for yourself. You're now investing for your family and your children. So that's a technique we've seen work really well with other individuals who we've come across it. And I actually know some people who've moved country. They migrated to the States because black tax was getting too much. Just because they've done well and they've left the village and they're being successful, they're now being punished or taxed is the perfect word for it. So I think that can be a small implementation that you could try. I mean, you're already doing it because now you said you have a limit, so well done. But it's definitely something I think people can draw upon who are also experiencing black tax. And we know someone who is going through this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I didn't know actually about the fund.
Yes.
And it's a good thing.
One.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, and let me just take it one step further. Say that month you have 5,000 shillings, but there's 2,000 left. Wonderful. It rolls over into the next month, so now you have 7,000. Now, if somebody gets ill and we need like 5,000 of it, you still have 2,000 for your mama and baba because you've got it. So yeah, that's how that fund should work. And it's just a small, and this way, if anyone ever says to you, I need more money, you have to be strict and disciplined to say, sorry, I've done my black tax quota for the month. But no, David, thank you so much for your time and being so transparent and open. We really appreciate it. It's really deep, and hopefully you can take away some of the key things to help you get out of this particular challenge at this stage.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, David. Wow.
Wow is an understatement.
I'm lost for words. Honestly, I'm actually a bit paused.
Black tax and its impact in society. When you think about it, when we initially started this particular episode, I was just ranting to you about how much I'd spent. But then, after listening to our two guests, you actually sit back and think, wait. There's an emotional toll to this. Right? This stuff that I've not been sharing that exists. It's dragging down on your mental health. There's a challenge around society, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
You don't want to see that relative, right? You're even scared that you'll meet them and they'll want something else because now you're in person. Wow.
Honestly, I know we knew this was a problem, but just speaking to two people, we haven't even gone far. It's actually a much bigger problem than I thought.
Yeah.
And what I would like out of this episode is really give everybody out there dealing with black tax in any shape or form to really learn how they can tackle with these things. I already touched about a black tax fund.
Yeah.
I think that really plays upon your emotional feeling of guilt, because if you do that and you set aside a small amount every single month and you commit to yourself and you're strict with yourself, you don't have that emotional guilt anymore, because you're saying, I have done the amount of charity I can do for this month, and I'm not going to lose sleep nights over it. I'm not going to lose sleep
over it, yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I've done my bit, and, I'm contributing to my community, and I'm not leaving anything on the table because I am contributing.
Yeah.
So there's other ways as well you can really help with trying to help individuals. So one of the key things is, a lot of the cases of black tax is that somebody's fallen ill.
Okay, yes.
To solve for that, there's two things you can do. A, you can pay for your national insurance, which I mentioned briefly. It's only 500 shillings, but a medical bill is normally 150k.
Yeah.
Recently I had to undergo something. I have health insurance, but I was shocked at the amount because it was unexpected, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So it covers for that. And actually, a couple of the people we've spoken to have said that it actually, the national insurance actually even covers for you when you're pregnant. And it covers all your
maternity
cover, which I think is great. And in short term, instead of going and buying 2 drinks for 500 shillings, why don't you just pay for your national insurance? Whether you can afford an even better insurance, why don't you just pay for it because it's a fallback?
Just have a baseline at the very least.
At the very least.
Yes. Okay.
And you could do that for your relatives that are dependent on you. This way, it stops them all the time asking you for money to help with health insurance.
Okay.
So that money that you set aside on a monthly basis, let's say if it's just 5,000 shillings, and you have supporting 4 people, that 2,000 can actually support for healthcare, which is one less burden for you to worry about.
Right.
Because I feel like health is the strongest emotional trigger. And the second thing, of course, is to get a well-affordable insurance plan. Nowadays, there's different types of brands out there. I can mention a few, like Ematiba is really good.
Yeah.
There's other plans there that are reasonably affordable that you can get to help.
Right. Yeah.
So that takes off significant stress. So instead of just giving them money for healthcare, next time say no. Yes, I'll help you today, but from next month we're going to do X, Y, Z in order to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right. So you flip it around, because you think about it. If you can put aside, say, the 500, then there's a medical bill down the line, which is 500,000 bob. Exactly. It's actually been sorted by that. So instead of paying 500,000, you actually just paid 500. Yeah, there's a relief. You've just been smart with how you deploy the money. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing is like Mia mentioned, right? She said that, initially it was a short-term problem. She was giving 5,000.
Yeah.
One way she could have tackled that to said, listen, I'm giving you a heads up. I'm being very clear with you, setting clear goals, saying I'm going to help you with it for another 2 months, which she did.
Yes.
But in addition of that, she should say, right, we're going to dig through what is your skill set? I agree you don't have a job today. And yes, the job market is hard.
Yeah.
But the internet has made it so easy for people nowadays to start businesses online, whether it's a side hustle. So what are you passionate about? You're passionate about eggs?
Okay.
Great. Why don't you get a few chicken, breed a few eggs, and sell eggs? I know it's a very simple example, but you can do anything. If you're a little bit more better with tech, you can start managing social media accounts. All you need to do is to get the courage to go knock on the door and ask someone. But perhaps this individual doesn't have that knowledge.
Okay.
But you can give your time in helping them, connect them to a friend that might need that service, and they start off and they're generating a little bit more income. Support them with how do they do business, how do they create a financial plan.
Yes.
Things like this that are intangible can really make an impact long term. And if you help this individual once, who's to say they might go teach the same skills to someone else? So what you're doing is you're providing them with a skill set that makes them financially independent, rather than just handing out money where they're financially dependent.
That exists, across society, across different cultures. To all our listeners, we'll be glad to hear about your own black tax story. You can reach out to us, blacktax@ndovu.co. We will try to give you a financial therapy session to help you overcome your own black tax issues and give you the power to actually say no.
Please reach out to us. We do look forward to hearing from you. And boy, today was tough.
Hey!
Thank you all.
Thank you. We are signing out from another episode of The Elephant in the Room. As always, I'm your host, Ronyan Gary, Chief Thinker. And
I'm Radhika Bachu, the Super Striker.
And we are out.
And we are out, indeed.